All right, boys and girls, these are the 4.4 notes, the second half that I told you to take. They're on the French and Indian War, specifically from the fall of New France all the way to Pontiac's War. We're going to go over these. It's going to be about 10 minutes. Again, I recommend that you write down the notes the first time through, pausing when you need to, going back when you need to, and then I recommend that you go back and just listen to the notes so you know where to put the stars and the underlines and highlight and all that stuff. So, let's begin. All right, so the British are winning a lot of battles. They're winning battles all over the Ohio River Valley, and they're winning battles in Canada. Unfortunately for them, to successfully drive the French out of Canada, they need to take Quebec. I want you to put a star next to the second bullet that says that the most important battle was Quebec, because it was. However, taking Quebec poses a problem because the fort that they need to take over is up on a hill surrounded by a cliff, so it's very high up in the air and it's heavily fortified. The British commander James Wolfe tries for months to take the fort, and he has no success doing it. One day, however, one of Wolfe's men notices that there is a poorly guarded path up the side of the hill that leads to a big open field that they call the Plains of Abraham. What we need to know is that for this to work, James Wolfe's men had to march up the side of the mountain relatively unnoticed by the French. One day, James Wolfe sends a small contingent of men. They go and take over a guardhouse that is up on that path, kill the men inside, and now the path is readily available to march all 5,000 of his men up the mountain. Wolfe is successful with marching all 5,000 men, cannons, artillery, the whole thing, up the side of the mountain without the French noticing. The French wake up the next morning. They come out, they form ranks, but unfortunately they have little chance. They take one volley. They have one volley, and they miss. They're actually too far away. They're a little bit overzealous. And the British just start marching forward, firing, and the battle lasts under an hour. However, during the battle, both commanders, James Wolfe on the English side and a man named Montcalm on the French side, both commanders are killed. However, because the British were successful in taking Quebec, the French and Indian War basically ends. There are some battles that happen after this, but this being the last major battle, it is considered by many to be the last, or the end of the French and Indian War. Just as a side note, when we talked about bias the other day, we talked about different perspectives and different views. And I'm going to show you guys a couple pictures. The first one is of James Wolfe dying on the battlefield. Okay, it shows him kind of very heroic. People are crowding around, taking time as if he's dying after the battle's already finished. What you should know is James Wolfe actually died instantly on the battlefield. He was shot in a place in the chest that hit his heart. He died instantly. He didn't have this kind of moment of greatness with people kind of crowding around and consoling him. And this is actually Montcalm's death scene. This is a drawing by a French artist, and again, you kind of have people surrounding him, kind of have him, people kind of taking care of him, kind of consoling him in his final moments. And again, Montcalm dies on the battlefield. But if you look at both, it paints both commanders as kind of heroes no matter what they did, even though they both actually died very early on in the battles. They weren't really there to lead their men. But it's kind of that perspective thing that we spoke about the other day, and I thought these would be two good examples to show you. So the Treaty of Paris is signed, and what the Treaty of Paris does is that it forces the French out of North America. We call it the Treaty of Paris is because it's signed in Paris, which is kind of self-explanatory. It's signed in 1763. A treaty, if you don't know, is when both sides agree to give up something in order to end the war. So both sides are going to have to say, this needs to end. What kind of agreement can we come to? Basically, France gives up all their major land holdings in North America. Everything east of the Mississippi River goes to England. Everything west of the Mississippi River goes to Spain. So as you can see kind of by the map, the Mississippi River is a natural boundary In the east, once again, England. In the west, we have Spain. I want you to put a bullet, an extra bullet or a star or underline, highlight, whatever you want to do next to the last bullet on this page where it says the Treaty of Paris marks the end of French power in North America, because now the two major powers in North America are England and Spain. This kind of comes into play back with the American Revolution when we go to that, because Spain helps us because they want to drive England off the continent. Pontiac's War takes place after the French Indian War, because after the French Indian War, British Commander Geoffrey Amherst is basically put in charge as the royal governor, and he passes these policies that are very unfavorable to the Native Americans. They don't like what he's doing. The Native Americans are being attacked. Their settlements are being raided. Men, women, children, the whole lot of them being killed. So this Ottawa chief named Pontiac organizes the Native Americans against the British, and they start raiding outposts and raiding settlements and being equally as brutal as the settlers were being to them. So it's a tumultuous time in the colonies because they had just come out of a battle. People are kind of done fighting, and here comes this Native American chief, and he's fighting back, which is something they don't expect. Eventually, however, the British do defeat Pontiac and his allies, and they sign a treaty to end the war. But instead of imprisoning or killing Pontiac, they actually release him. And what you should be asking yourself is, why would they release somebody who is leading a war against them? Well, the reason is they fear what's going to happen if they do execute or imprison this man. When you kill somebody who is fighting for a cause, you make them what's called a martyr, or somebody who dies for a cause or for their religion or for some kind of ideal. And they were worried that if you kill Pontiac, that more people would band together and more people would want to fight against the British because of what you did to their leader. And then lastly, we have the Proclamation of 1763. Even after Pontiac's War, there is still fighting between the British settlers and the Native Americans. It's actually very expensive, because what's happening is the British government is having to send troops to protect these settlers, and they don't want to do that anymore. It costs too much money. So to stop the fighting, they pass what they call the Proclamation of 1763, which prohibits all westward movement of settlers. And this is kind of what many people see as the beginning, or the first kind of British act that starts the idea of revolution. Because what happened was there were many wealthy people in the middle and southern colonies that had bought land west of the Appalachian Mountains, and now they can't settle it. So they spent this money. They were speculators, right? They bought this land with the hopes of selling it eventually. And now they can't sell it, so they're really, really upset by this. One of the people that's really upset by this is a person that we've heard of before, obviously, George Washington. Bought a massive amount of land in the Ohio River Valley, and now he's being told that he can no longer settle there. So the Proclamation of 1763, as you can see on the picture, says the American Revolution on the bottom. That's because this is really seen as the first kind of British law, British act that upsets the colonists enough to make them start thinking about revolution. All right, so that is the end of these notes. If you have just finished writing them down, go back and listen to it to know where to put the bullets and everything else, or the stars rather. And if you have just finished writing them down and you have not, if you just finished listening to them and you have not written them down yet, then, go back and do that. All right, so I will see you all tomorrow. Have a good night, and get this done, because this is important.